Welcome to BluntAdvice, the short-form show that delivers cannabis industry insight and information in quick hits to help you operate your cannabiz on a higher level. Here are your blunt hosts, Francesca and Mike.
So in our last episode, we talked to you about the essential things you need for a successful cannabis business. And one of those was to have a strong brand. And we thought we should probably get a little deeper into that. So today we are going to give you some blunt advice on what is a brand and how do you actually know when you have one. So Mike, what's a brand?
There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
I think the common thought in the marketplace amongst a lot of people in any business is that a brand is your logo and your colors, your tagline and your fonts. And they're right, that is a brand. But that's like the kind of top layer of a brand as far as I'm concerned. And I know you're a firm believer that a strong brand has a lot more deeper meaning and a lot more deeper connection with the audience. And so if we really want to dive into what's in a brand, I think there's some other key elements that we should explore. The first one in my mind being personality. And I think a brand really needs to express the personality of the company that it's representing or that it's fronting. And, you know, are you a fun, energetic company? Are you a scientific company that's very serious? Are you, what else? I mean,
Are you like the sexy, sleek one? Are you the combative one? Are you the stoner guy? Are you funny? There's like a ton of ways to have personality in a brand, but it is really important that a brand has one, or else you just have a name and a logo and fonts and colors. I think that's really like the heartbeat of a brand. And when people talk about authenticity and making sure you're authentic in your brand, I think personality is probably the very top layer of that and like the biggest piece of that.
Yeah, I like your point there as far as the authenticity, because there's nothing worse than when you find a brand and you connect with the personality and then you meet the people.
Oh God, and they're nothing like what they put out there and you're like, oh, yeah, that is
It's a red
rough.
flag.
It is. It's a major red flag. If your brand doesn't exist in that consistent way from digital to personal, you're really missing that personality beat in a big way.
Well, and as a consumer, whether it's a product or service, I have immediate distrust that what the product or service I'm buying is going to be consistent with what they're portraying if their personality is not even consistent. So, and that leads us to the other one I want to bring up, values.
Yes, values for sure, which is kind of a new thing, I feel like. Maybe, I mean, new as in like 50 years ago, it wasn't really as important for companies to have values. And now you need them, and especially in the cannabis space, because cannabis existed before the industry did. And the people that brought it to this point where we can legally have an industry sacrificed a lot to do that. And so there are some inherent values in cannabis. It's connected deeply into political and social, areas of our lives. And so your values have to reflect that, whatever they are.
I want to dive into this a little deeper too, because I think there's a real issue with people portraying values and then not backing those values up, because they feel like they see values of one company and they have 5 things listed, so therefore they want to have 5 things listed, when really they should have 1 thing listed. Like I would rather see a company be very strong and direct and intentional on 1 core value than flimsy on 5. And so I think it's a good time for people to think about what they really stand for and really stand for it and really live that and be true to that versus just throwing it up on your webpage because you think everybody wants to see that.
Values aren't something you write down and publish. Values are something you live and you embody. I could not agree more. But even beyond those things, which I think are deeply personal, you also need to make sure that your brand is conveying the solution that you're actually providing to your customer. You know, maybe not word for word or in deep detail, but in some way you have to communicate who you are and what exactly you're offering.
Yep. I think, well, that's kind of interesting. I agree with you but I think the difficulty is sometimes people create a brand that is limiting. So I think a brand needs to convey your solution, but not handcuff you to something in the future that will prevent future growth. So yeah, a brand needs to say, I'm a nutrient company. It needs to convey that I'm helping plants grow effectively. Or if I'm a packaging company, people need to know that I'm shelling out labels and things like that. And so yes, but at the same time, I've seen brands do that where it's so ambiguous that you can't tell what they are, or it's so limiting that if they try to pivot at any point in the growth of their company and the evolution of their brand, they can't. And now what they're really doing today is held back by the brand they created yesterday.
Because their solution was too small.
Yep.
So now they'll never get the new prospects of people that need how their solution expanded, right?
Yep, exactly. Yeah. And I think so. I think that's an opportunity at the onset of brand creation to not just think about who you are today and to think about where you may want to be tomorrow, because that might tweak that brand in some fashion, whether it's tweaking the logo or tweaking the description or the tagline. I think it's just a smart move of branding people to push their clients to think about those sorts of things and to think about, like, let's say you are successful. What does that mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
I mean, think about how many times that we've reviewed the name The Sales Joint even. Like, we didn't just do private sales for farms. We also help people with any sales infrastructure to help them grow their business. We are still the sales joint in doing all of those things, even though the services are varied and the solutions apply always to that bottom line sales.
Correct. And if you really think about the evolution of our company, we started off as Alias Can, and
which no one could pronounce.
It wasn't Elias
It was
Khan.
not Elias Khan.
But we loved the name. We knew what we thought it meant, but it was a little too ambiguous, and no one knew what we did. So that's what led us to rebrand. And it's okay to rebrand.
Yes.
You're better off rebranding than sticking with a lemon. So
yeah, for sure. Unless you're selling lemons. But yeah, I think, and the solution has to be, all of this has to speak to the ideal customer. Mm-hmm. I mean, you need to make sure that the personality, the values, and the solution are all for specifically who you want to buy them. And that is such a missing piece when people are creating their brands. There are so many clients we've talked to that we said, okay, so who's your ideal client? Who's buying your flower? Who's buying your vapes? Who's buying your edibles? And they said, anyone who has money? I mean, they want everyone because they haven't sold anything. And it's like, that's not really good branding. Brands don't speak to everyone. They speak to someone. The more specific in terms of that personality and values, the more they will connect with them when they come across that ideal customer.
The imagery, the voices, the messaging are completely different for 18 to 24 males versus 50 plus females.
Yes.
And if you think you're going to solve that for every demographic in every region across just the U.S.,
with
you're off.
one image, then you are forgettable.
It's another area I think that you and I push a lot on with people is really diving into who is that ideal customer. And it's not easy. It's not easy to get that information. It's not easy to understand it, and it's rare. I mean, if you think about it, I think we have one client that we're working with now that actually had a demographic study, and they knew exactly who they wanted to appeal to. And it was so, like, refreshing for us, and at the same time, I was like, let me see your data, because I honestly didn't believe he had it. I thought he was just pulling it out of
Yeah.
But it's rare, but it's critically important to have a
is.
brand that speaks to your ideal customer. And I think if you take all of those things we just said, I believe the last piece of the puzzle is putting it all together in one cohesive design. So one package where everything has consistency and uniformity and messaging and feel and vibe and all those things all fit together in one nice package that's your brand.
Exactly, and it's the idea that your fonts are communicating the same personality, value, solution to your ideal customer as your colors, as your logo, as your copy, as your scripts. All of that is the cohesive design element to it. It goes together with each other, and it goes together with those deeper things that we discussed earlier on.
Yeah, sure does.
So that's what you need to have a brand.
There's a lot that goes into it.
There is. It's a couple of pieces in there. But then, once you have those pieces, it's like, how do you know that you have them? Because people can think they have a personality, people can think they have an ideal customer, and so, and they really don't. So what is the litmus test to knowing that you actually do have a brand?
What is it? You've got the magic potion here, so share with everyone.
Well, if I must. To put it bluntly, I think that you know you have a strong brand when it connects deeply, proudly, repeatedly, and people share and engage with that cohesive design. I think it's deep, proud, repeated, sharing and engaging of that cohesive design lets you know that you have a brand. So you'll see your brand when you have a brand.
Yeah, so let's give some examples. Let's break that down for the audience, because there's a lot of really good things you said in there, and I want to make sure we don't skip on. So if you connect deep and proud, what is that? What would, if I think I have a brand, how do I know if people are connecting deeply and proudly with my brand?
I think you know if they're connecting deeply because they are connected to more than just what you're offering. They're connected to the why behind what you're offering. For us, I feel like people have a deep connection with our brand when we talk about dealing with our craft cultivators. People are on board with helping the little guy or the underdog. The no one grows alone is a deep connection to our brand.
Right.
So it's the idea that it's that values and personality piece that is the deep connection. So you know they're connecting deeply because they're choosing your products over somebody else's, and it's not a price war or necessarily availability. They'll go out of their way. They support your social cause. They support your, whatever it is that you're putting out there. They're like into it.
And I think it's also in terms of they'll make a purchase, but maybe buy other products you have. So not just one product all the time, but buying multiple SKUs that are part of your brand because they want to be a part of that brand. They want to wear your merch. They want to, represent that brand because they're almost as proud of it as you are.
I think that's the proud part. Yeah, they're sporting the merch, they're sharing your social, they're doing user-generated content. I mean, they are out there and saying that they are a consumer or customer of yours, that they are a client. They want to give testimonials. They are proud to be a supporter of what you're doing or offering. So yeah. I agree.
If you are doing an event and you're giving away free merch and there's a line and you don't have enough free stuff to give away, that's a sign of a good brand.
Yes.
Or it's great merch.
I was going to say, or a lot of people who like free shit. Yeah. So there's that. But I mean, you also have to look at it repeatedly. I mean, you shouldn't have a whole lot of one-time customers if you can have repeat customers.
Right.
So whether that's services and they keep using you for a longer time, they keep re-engaging you, they connect you with more people, they use different services, whether that's products and they keep coming back, they are a regular for you. That is such a good sign of a strong brand.
It's almost, I think, I like what you're saying, and I agree 100% with, and I feel like at that point your brand becomes a lifestyle.
Ooh, yeah.
And I think if you have that, then you have something really special, really unique, and really strong.
Yeah, because you want to let people know. It's almost like you're in a club, and you're letting people know that you're a part of this club.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Well, that I think we covered this one pretty good for 10 minutes.
Yeah. What a brand
13 minutes.
Yeah.
All right, so let's roll this up and pass it on. What are the quick hits of today's episode?
So the first quick hit is understanding what a brand is. And that is a cohesive design that shares your personality, your values, and your solutions to your ideal customers.
Number 2, when people can easily connect and engage with your brand and proudly support it repeatedly, you have a strong brand.
And I think number 3, the quick hit is if you're missing any one piece of these things, you might be in some brand trouble and you might need some help. So definitely reach out for that, maybe to us.
And don't forget, we love to hear from you. So please feel free to give us some blunt feedback by emailing us at bluntadvice@infusedmedia.io.
I'm Francesca.
And I'm Mike.
And in the time it took DoorDash to come back and actually deliver that side of fries you ordered, we've given you some blunt advice.